Hello, everyone. It must be Wednesday. It must be 9 p.m. Eastern in the United States. I hope everybody out there is doing fantastic. I'm doing well. Of course, we'll get into some of the things that are going on in my life before we get deep into the items that I want to cover on this live show. I want to start out first of all, and remind all of you as you are watching, if you're watching this live, or if you're going to catch this in the replay, to please go and like this video, give it the thumbs up on whatever kind of device you are using, because that helps us with the YouTube algorithm. So you see that little thumb thing like that? Please give this a like. In addition, I know that there are new people finding Unfound all the time, finding this YouTube channel all the time, especially with the coverage we got on 48 Hours a week and a half ago. So if you're not yet a subscriber to this YouTube channel, I would urge you to do so. And then after you do that, please hit the little bell button so when we upload videos, you will be alerted immediately. Now, and this will be fitting because I will be doing a video for this Friday's episode, but more on that later. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell for when we upload new videos. In fact, I think the bell also goes off when the live show starts. So that might help you be reminded, because some of you, I know you forget what day of the week it is. You got a lot of things going on in your life, and I totally understand. But then maybe you make time for the show and then you forget about it. Well, hitting that bell and be a subscriber and having that bell checked off may help you not forget. So let's see who's in here very, very early on in tonight's live show for April 7th, 2021. Linda, speaking of which, she says, I had to set a reminder, but I made it. Yes, you did, Linda, and you were first. Hello, Laura, Charlotte, Kathy LaFord, Twinkle, Jasmine, Deborah. Hi, Ed. Hello. Hello, Deborah. Kristen, Elizabeth, Karen, good to see all of you in here this evening. I have a nice show lined up, a lot of things to talk about. We're going to be talking about some of Unfound's former cases with some trial dates and some things going on there. Going to be talking about the interview that I did earlier this week. That will be coming out, I think, maybe in about 2 weeks. Did an interview with a very good friend of mine, and I have a very funny, quaint, and cute and story about a park ranger, a story from just today. Maybe some of you who follow me on Facebook already know that I posted about it, but for anybody that doesn't know the story, you will get it firsthand from me in a little bit. So what's going on with me? First of all, my diet is going very well. I started out, I'll just tell all of you, in the 190 range, which is disgusting for me. And I got up this morning and I was 185.2. So I've lost about 5 pounds. Of course, I have to admit, keeping the carbs and sugars out of the diet has not been that difficult. I'm just being honest. I'm not saying I don't have a craving for a Hershey bar or two, but I've not cheated. And I've been doing this since I think about March 27th, somewhere in there. I will have you know that I can tell out in the disc golf course already, having played this past weekend in a 24 basket tournament, just I guess 12 baskets thrown to 2 times from different tees, that I can certainly tell. And even when I went out and practiced, and I've played okay, and I'll get into that in a second. Even when I went out and played, practiced on Monday, and then I went and through today, I can definitely tell it's a combination of feeling just a little bit lighter, a little bit thinner. I've been doing these ab exercises for about 16 or 17 days now, with a rest. I think every fourth day is a rest day. And all of that put together, I can certainly tell. So I'm going to be very interested to see how I feel once I get down into the 170s. And of course, it's a ways to go. I know that it's going to get tougher as it goes, but I really think that's where I need to be. Somebody may look at me and say, Ed, how are you going to lose 10 more pounds? Well, I see it. So we're just going to keep doing this. Ate quite a bit today, but I still don't even think that I passed my calorie count. I'm doing about 1,700 calories a day, but of course you get allowances when you work out or go through, play disc golf. You get exercise allowances, and on this app that I use, it tells you how many calories you use for particular activities. And so I went and threw the discs for a little over an hour, and I went and got ribs today, and I got ribs with collard greens, which I love, and coleslaw. I would usually get French fries, which can't do that with carbs. Or I could get mashed potatoes. Can't do that because of carbs either. And I realized there might be a little sugar in the coleslaw, and there's probably some sugar in the rib sauce. But I don't feel too bad about that because it's surely being made up by the protein that I'm eating with it. And it's not like I'm hogging it all down at one time. So even though I got ribs today and half of them are still there in the refrigerator now, with me working out today, probably I was, with throwing the disc today, probably I was allowed 2,000 calories. And I don't think I've gone over that today, even eating some of that. So that's kind of what I've been doing. So I haven't had a candy bar. I haven't had any soda. I haven't had any potato chips, pizza, anything since March 26th. And that is saying something. But it's been fun. It makes me feel good. And like I said, I know that losing weight for some people is very difficult. And so, like I said, it's been a bit easy. But like I said, I think as it goes on, it's probably going to get a little tougher, a little tougher, a little tougher. So that's what's been going on with me. One of the ways that I try to deal with this is I try to not drink any calories. So I'm not drinking anything except for the milk I may put on cereal. Other than that, I'm not having any liquid calories. So no orange juice. Of course, that has sugar in it. Any drinks that have calories, I'm not drinking it. So I'm drinking water, unsweetened iced tea, unsweetened green tea, some vitamin water, and things like that. So all the calories that I'm getting are from actually solid foods. And I think that helps because when you drink, from a sensing point of view, you can drink water, and to your brain, it's kind of the same thing. It's filling you up, whether it's soda or water. And so drinking water is a good way to kind of push off the hunger, because your stomach's getting filled up with water. So, and then you're not getting any calories at the same time. So I think that's certainly helped. I take water with me everywhere I go. Even when I go to bed tonight, I have water sitting by the bed. So that's what's been going on with my diet. Getting back to what I talked about with disc golf this past weekend. Saturday was a PDGA sanctioned round, and I did okay. Left a couple strokes out there. Probably could have shot 3 strokes better over the 24 baskets, probably. But I can't really complain, being that I've only played that course once before. Got to play with a very good friend of mine, Cameron. He actually ended up winning our division, and he played. I thought he played well, but he thought of I guess like every disc golfer thought he could have played better. But he ended up winning by a stroke. Very happy for him. I think he ended up beating me by 5 throws over the 24 baskets, which is about right. He is certainly a better player than I am. But so I had a good time. Sunday, I did not play well at all over the club, but because I played with backup discs because I left my bag at home. After I came home from the disc golf tournament on Saturday, I took my disc golf bag with the discs in it up to my condo here. And so when I got up on Sunday morning, I was like half asleep, but I wanted to go. And I showed up there at Taylor, and I forgot the bag with the discs I usually throw back here. So I have a backup bag there, but the discs that I have are all like backups and discs I don't throw very often. And it surely showed in how I played. I did not play well at all. But then I returned on Monday for practice over here at Sand Key, threw very well, and today I threw very well. So things are good there. Let me see what some of you are saying, and then we'll continue. Easily. Hello, Easily. Twinkle says, you look like you've lost some weight. Where in my face? Maybe, Twinkle. Probably. I mean, if I'm going to lose another 10 pounds, I'm guessing there probably will be some signs in my face. And my genetics, even though my family has what I would call skinny genes, our faces do tend to get a little puffy. If I start looking gaunt or something, then there's something certainly health-wise going on. But I could probably stand to lose a little bit in my face, and it may happen as I get closer to 175. Twinkle, thank you. Kristen says, bikini season coming. Oh, behave, Kristen. Thank you, Laura. Linda says, nothing tastes as good as thin feels. I think that's true. That's a great saying, Linda. I like it. Hello, Coffee. And Bree. Laura says, collard greens are a great source of fiber. I love them. Absolutely fantastic. I know they get made different places, but the place I go to called the Rib Shack here in Largo, fantastic. Got to stay regular. Okay, Laura. Thank you, Screaming. Thank you. Bree says, I'm trying to not drink soda every day, but I only have one. Yeah, cutting down on the soda can be tough, Bree, whether it's a diet or regular. I can tell you for years back in the 90s, maybe in the early 2000s, I never drank soda at all. And then I started drinking it again. And it's interesting to not be drinking it now. Hello, Suzanne. I got your email. I hope you got the newsletter that I sent back to you. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. No beer. Deborah, maybe some of you don't know this. I don't drink alcohol at all anyway. I haven't had a sip of alcohol since maybe 2005 when I went to a wine tasting event. And then before that, maybe year 2001 or something. And then you'd have to, really, it's just not something I ever got into. Kristen said, I went to a hypnotist and could drink water. Kristen, thank you. You're very generous. Wow, Kristen, thank you very much. And I love the little creature there flying around in the pink background. Wow, Kristen, thank you very much. Thank you for the contribution through Super Chat. If you're wondering what you're seeing there, for all of you chat room members, Kristen hit the Super Chat button, which is that gray box with a $sign in the middle. And that is a monetary contribution that you can make toward Unfound as you are watching tonight. Kristen, thank you very much. You're very kind. Wow, thank you. Hello, Laura, Marcus, Louise. Kristen says, keep up the amazing work. I have to go to bed, but I know it will be an amazing show. I'll catch up tomorrow. Kristen, thank you very much. We're going to keep doing amazing work. Thank you. You're very generous. And Marcus, congrats on your interview being featured on 48 Hours. Yeah, Marcus, I talked about that last week. I don't know if you were here last week. Maybe you caught the live show in the replay, but I did speak a long time up about that, and I'm not going to get back into it tonight, but thank you. Thank you. Louise, water is the best to drink. It is. I love it. You got it, Suzanne. Great. What is the address to get the newsletter, Kristen? Well, you send me your email address at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get you on the list. Just send me your email address. Hello, Spicy. Allie says, I would like to know how to get a hold of you. You did a podcast on Dennis Lushball Jr. while I was his fiance. Allie, if you want to contact me at unfoundpodcast.com, there you go. Cherie is posting it right there. There you go. Disc golf, which I already talked about this past weekend. This coming weekend, I have a one round tournament at right over here in Clearwater. So that is convenient for me. I think my tee time is 11:30. Maybe not that early, maybe 12:20, something like that. We get to pick our tee times, and being that I don't like to get up early, I pick a tee time that's probably usually around noon. But then on Sunday, so I have a one round 18 basket tournament there. But then on Sunday, I am going to have to get up early. I'm going to have to drive the whole way to Floral City, which is like an hour and a half away. Tee off time, I think, is 8:30. So I'm going to have to get up at like 6. I'm not looking forward to that. But I think for all of you Think Tank members, I don't think there should be a conflict with the Think Tank, because the second round should be shorter, because we're going to play long tees first round, short tees second round. So the second round should be a bit shorter in time. So as long as I can leave there about 4:30 or something like that, then I should have plenty of time to get back and get ready for this Think Tank at 7:00. We'll just have to see. But so I have that going on. So I suppose after the Think Tank is done on Sunday evening, I'm going to be pretty worn out, but things to do. I threw a disc 388 feet this past Monday, which has to be close to my record. Just came out of nowhere. You never know what's going to happen, but that was nice. It's been beautiful here. These are the days that people wait for in Florida. It has been absolutely beautiful, beautiful skies, no rain, temperature right in that perfect area. Really been beautiful. A job that I've taken up this week, I'm cleaning out this closet that's over in my master bedroom. I have a lot of stuff that I moved in here when I moved here May 1st of 2019. And I've been looking at that closet, and I've been looking at that closet, and I've been looking at that closet. And I was like, I got to do something about this. So I've been going through, and I took a bunch of clothes and towels and things like that to a Goodwill bin last night. And I've been getting rid of some cardboard boxes and everything, really trying to filter out a lot of this stuff that I've collected, clothes and other things. So I think within the next couple of days, that job will be done, and that closet will be in a little better shape, because it's right by my sink and by the shower. So I see it all the time. I can't avoid it. And so I see it every day, and I'm like, oh, I got to do something about this. And then I'm getting it done. So it's kind of this, going on a diet. It's spring, cleaning up the closet, time to refresh. We're slowly getting out of all of this COVID stuff. Time to be reborn. And that is going on a diet, cleaning up this closet, etc. All right, there you go. Speaking of, I've still not gotten the vaccine, but I got to get on I think I talked about that last week. I got to schedule myself. I keep forgetting about it. One of of course, the Masters, the golf tournament starts tomorrow. I will be following that closely. Can't wait for that. Probably my favorite sporting event now these days. I'm thinking about getting another car, not a new car in that one to replace the one I have. Just thinking about it, throwing some ideas around. My car has just about 80,000 miles on it now. It's a Hyundai Sonata. It's been a very good car. I've put over 40,000 miles on it, but still kind of throwing around the idea of maybe moving on to something else. We'll just have to see. And being that we're all on YouTube right now, I want to let all of you know that we're very close to getting 12,000 subscribers. Could have never imagined it. It's just spectacular. So thank you to everybody who's become a subscriber over the last couple years since the channel got started. Deborah says, I don't drink alcohol either. Linda says, I would love to get your prior newsletters. Well, Linda, that we could do that, but that might be take a little work on my part. But maybe if you let me know your email address, maybe we can make that happen. Do not post it here. Just send your email to unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Kathy doesn't drink alcohol either. Kristen said, probably not the time to bring it up, but for some reason my Patreon account didn't go through. Can you try processing again? I have plenty of credit. I'm not sure why it didn't process. Kristen, that I don't know what to tell you. That's something between you and Patreon. I don't do any processing. Every agreement you have is with Patreon, not with me. So if you have any problem with that, I would contact them. I don't think I can help you in that department. I don't think. Spicy, thank you for your contribution. Super chat, Spicy. And I deeply, deeply appreciate it, Spicy. Thank you. Linda says, need help getting into the think tanks on Sundays. Sheree, maybe you can help her with that. Thank you. Thank you. Patreon is run by Patreon, Kristen. So yeah. Thank you. Twinkle says, you have to see my walk-in closet. It's a nightmare. I can relate. And yeah, Linda, if you're having problems getting into the think tank, you know, I post the link on Patreon and in the very, 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 very private think tank group. So it should work one place or the other. I think what you have to remember, Linda, is sometimes when you click on the link, it's not actually taking you to YouTube where you can chat and everything. You're still on Facebook and you can watch the video, but you can't do any chatting. So that might be your problem. Facebook is very tricky like that. Sometimes when you click on a link and it'll make it look like you're in YouTube where you can do everything like we are now, but you're not. You're still on Facebook. And of course, why is that? Facebook and YouTube are rivals. So you have to keep that in mind. Kristen, I think they'll allow you to change your credit card, Kristen. I don't see any problems there. Louise says, I forget what clothes I have, and then when I find something and think, forgot about that. Me too. Yep, Kathy. Yeah, Sheree. Just Kristen, follow what Sheree is saying there about emailing one of us, and I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. Melissa, hi Ed. We are here. Sorry we are late. Melissa, you are excused, but I'm just going to do this for you. This is for you and Ann, anybody else watching in your house right at this second. How you doing, Melissa? How you doing? All right. Kristen, I felt awful. They reject my lattes at dunking. Okay. Cleaning out closets. Laura, when it comes to disc golf, it seems like you always either think you did really, really well, spectacular, or you think you sucked horribly. Your opinion has no in between. Well, when it comes to disc golf, that might be true. I think this weekend I did not play spectacular. I think I played. About what my rating is, and I can't complain about that. But I'm looking to shoot above my PDGA rating, and I didn't do that. I shot just about what it is. I had an opportunity to do better than that, but I didn't. So, um, maybe that's the way it seems, Laura, because we, as golfers, you should know that, we're always thinking about what could have been. That putt we missed, that throw we didn't make very well, and those numbers start adding up in our heads. That's just how it is. But I don't know. But sometimes I do, to put your words, sometimes I do suck horribly. That is true. Linda says her walk-in closet is the Tower of Terror. That's funny. That's a great ride over there at Disney. Thank you, Laura. You are generous as well. Thank you, Laura. Kristen, how do I get into the very, very private think tank group? Well, you have to be a premium Patreon member, Kristen, and it sounds like right now that you are having some Patreon problems. So once you get those straightened out, we'll get you in there. You have to be on Facebook to do that as well. Yeah, Laura's thanks, Ed. I'll keep trying, and I'll bug Cherie as well. Yeah, you do that, Linda. It just sounds to me there shouldn't be any problems, Linda, because I post the link in both the think tank group on Facebook and on Patreon. But in both situations, it could be a situation where you're clicking on the link, you think you're on YouTube, and maybe you can see me and I'm talking and everything, but you can't comment. Why? Because you're not on YouTube. You'll know you're on YouTube where you can see the chat going on between the members, and you can chat too. If you don't see that, you're not on Facebook. It just looks like you are. There's Marlene. I was wondering if you were going to show up, Marlene. Good to see you. All right, so that's kind of everything that is going on in Ed's private life. I guess that's what you call it, things that are popping up here and there. Let me talk about the Brenda Condon poll. Of course, that was the episode from this last Friday, and then I'll tell you my park ranger story. The Brenda Condon poll, a majority of you, quite a few, in the discussion group, picked that somebody else caused Brenda's disappearance. I think I gave the options as her boyfriend, Greg, the owner of the bar, his name was Carl, the serial killer, who was believed to be a serial killer, Robert James Cruz, or somebody else. And somebody else won. I was very surprised by that. Very, very surprised, but that is the choice all of you made. The think tank, a little more mixed than that. I think a lot of people could believe it was Robert Cruz, but it was certainly not the number one choice in the think tank was not somebody else. Me, as I wrote on the Patreon blog, and once again, if you'd like to be just a Patreon member, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. And if you'd like to be a premium member, then you must sign up for at least the $12 a month level or above. That would get you into the think tank that I've been talking about here. And also all of the Unfound on the ground tutorials that we do every month that Dr. Eric Grabowski holds. And you also get into the I've been talking about the very, 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 very private think tank group. They're on Facebook, and you get some ebooks and some other things. So please consider doing that. Once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. So that was the conclusion for Brenda's the poll. The reason I picked Robert James Cruz is that to me, there's just some things that cannot be denied. Him dumping a girl there 2 years later in the area. It seems to me that that attack that he had on this girl was similar to seemingly what happened to Brenda. I've seen the sketch, the one sketch of a man who was allegedly in the bar that night that looks a lot like Robert. And as I wrote in the blog, it's a locals bar for the most part. And so it seems more likely that somebody who would be just kind of passing through would be the main culprit and not some local. And in addition, we couldn't put Greg at the scene. It's hard to understand why Carl would have done something to her. In addition, leaving his entire bar unlocked. Those are just things that are hard to understand. So that's why I came to the conclusion that Robert James Cruz is responsible for Brenda Condon's disappearance. Cherie says, you have to be on Facebook to get into the private discussion group, but not to be a Patreon member of the channel with access to the think tank. No Facebook required. That is true. Thank you, Cherie. Kristen, thank you again. Kristen, feeling generous tonight. Thank you. And you got the little creature doing a little rolling over thing there. Laura says, speaking of Unfound on the Ground, what a great discussion Monday night. Laura, you were there. And it was good. It was great. I was listening in. I listened to every one of them, even though I don't comment. I'm in there in the Zoom. I may be doing some other things, but I'm listening to it. And yes, the topic was why people go missing. And it was interesting hearing all of you talk about all the different reasons that people can go missing and the study of that and talking about why those things happen and how that really forms how we think about disappearances in general. So there you go. But Laura, thank you for that. Cherie says, I think the more I thought about it, the more convinced it was Robert. So Cherie's going to agree with me. Sometimes we don't agree, but this time we do agree about Robert James Cruz being responsible for Brenda's disappearance. Screaming says, Carl's Bad Tavern is now a pizzeria. I don't think it was Greg. Thank you, Screaming. Yes, I've heard that it was a pizzeria. That's what I've heard. Yes. So there you go. And once again, if you'd like to read all of the blogs that I've written since about August of 2017 regarding every disappearance that we've covered on Unfound since then, you can go to Patreon and just for $2 a month have access to all those blogs, 50 cents a week. And I write at least 3,000 words every weekend for those blogs and getting you hear more of my theories and opinions and things, stuff that I don't do during the regular episode. So once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Hello, Carrie. Assistant Carrie is in the house. Good to see you, Carrie. All right, here's my park ranger story. I've now that I live here, I found this place to practice just north of me, maybe 2/3 of a mile, place called Sand Key Park. And it's just south of the Clearwater Beach proper, where the actual Clearwater Beach, I have a Clearwater Beach address, but I don't live on Clearwater Beach. I live south here by about a mile. Well, there is a park and there's like an inlet. There's Sand Key Park, then an inlet that goes into this bay over here, east. And then there's Clearwater where a bunch of hotels are and everything else. Well, I go up to Sand Key, the park, and there is a really nice field that I found in the park where I can throw. And people going into the park, driving by. And I've kind of gotten to know one of the park rangers there. He used to play disc golf at one time, so I was there playing. He came over, we talked, and he says how one of these days he would like to get back into it. So kind of got to know him. I don't see him all the time, maybe once a month, maybe something like that. But as it would happen, I get up there and I'm throwing a bunch of discs, and once in a while I will forget one somewhere, but I'll have my name on it, and sometimes they get returned, sometimes they don't. Well, what happened was that on Monday, I was done throwing, collected what I thought were all my discs, and left, came home. But I guess I forgot one of them. And so today, I don't know, around noon or something, he calls and leaves me a message. And he says, "Hey, this is," I'm not going to say his name. "This is the park ranger up at Sand Key, Ed. I think you left one of your discs up here. It'll be in the office up here. If you're gonna, you can come pick it up, whenever you want. If you're gonna come up, maybe coming up here to throw, let me know or whatever." And that was very nice of him. This is the second time I've left a disc up there, and he has called me to tell me that he found it. So I end up calling him back, and we work out when I'm going to come up. And I did go up there today, although I did not see him. I did go to the office and the disc was there. But while I'm talking to him, he says, "You know what? As he's working, as I called him, he was listening to the Unfound podcast." Now, of course, I had told him, he knows what I do. It'd come up at some point in the past, although I don't specifically remember talking about it, but it surely came up. Probably, asked me, what do I do? Just getting to know each other. And he admitted that as I called him, here he is, I'm calling him, and he's listening to Unfound. And he says he was just at the point where the interview started for Brenda Condon's episode from this past Friday. And it was very unreal, very cool. I thanked him, of course, multiple times for listening. And he says that when he's doing his work up there, he has these headphones on, and then he listens to podcasts, and he started to listen to Unfound. And so, very neat. The same guy that finds your disc calls you, you call him back, and he's listening to your podcast. So it's so weird and so neat and so cool. And so that was my story. You just never know. I mean, really, you just never know. And I think that what I do know is that it does seem within the last couple months that more and more people who are around me, like in the disc golf community, when I go to tournaments or I go to the club play or whatever, more and more people are discovering what I do, because I really don't advertise it. I just, don't go up and people and say, "Listen to Unfound, will you?" I don't do that. If it comes up, if somebody asks me what I do, I tell them. And in fact, that happened on Sunday. But it seems that it's kind of filtering through, and I'm discovering more and more people who I'm playing disc golf with are already aware of this program and myself and all of the disappearances we've covered before I even tell them. That is a perception that I have. And I've just started to notice that within the last couple months. I don't know what has changed, why that is, but it's certainly true. And it's great. And I love it. And, but I'm glad that people are coming to it very organically, instead of me, marketing myself to every person that I see, marketing the program to every person I see. Because I think after a while that's people like that are a bore. So it's nice that these people are finding the program, people who know me kind of just through the grapevine or whatever else. So that's my park ranger story, and it's a good one. I just couldn't imagine. I call him while so it must have been weird, him hearing me in his headphones, and then I'm on the phone. So it was really good. He's a really good guy. Enjoy talking to him when I can. So there's my park ranger story. So it's a park ranger story, a disc golf story, and an Unfound story all combined. You don't get that every day. Louise says, "Don't you count your discs? You must lose loads of them." I don't lose loads of them. But Louise, sometimes you think you just have all your discs and you don't. Sometimes that happens. Just got other things on my mind. And maybe I got to make a phone call. I got to get out of there. I got to get back to here to make a phone call. I got to do something. And one gets lost somewhere. Now, I've thrown a couple into the water within the last couple weeks over at Taylor. And sometimes you get those back and sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, people take them, find them. And even though you have your name and your number on them, they aren't given back. And that sucks. But it's just something I've grown to live with. Other people, it continues to bother them, but not me as much. Carrie, lots of listeners, Ed. I guess so, Suzanne. I guess so. Carrie says, please don't forget us little people. Okay, Carrie. All right. Cherie says, I think you mean a tournament. Don't get me started, Cherie. What Cherie is referencing is I made a comment, I think I wrote yesterday, that I said people who pronounce the word tournament as tournament. I don't know why that happens. It's tour. It's T-O-U-R. Tour, not tur. Tournament, not tournament. Another word that gets me is program. P-R-O-G-R-A-M. It's program, not program. It's not G-R-U-M at the end. It's G-R-A-M. Program. Remember back in my 7-Eleven days, the guy who instructor who started to teach us on the accounting methods and everything at 7-Eleven back in 1998, he pronounced that word program and it drove me nuts. That should have been the sign that I should just quit right there. When their main instructor couldn't pronounce that word correctly, I should have just said, Ed, you're out of here. Didn't do it. And so I dealt with torture for 8 months. That's how we say it in Texas. Okay, Cherie. Thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate that. Louise says, I think because you're not in their face saying about Unfound, it makes people want to listen. Also, you're not going on about money constantly like some podcasts do. That's true. Louise, I'll be the first to admit that I'm probably not the greatest self-promoter in the world. And although I like to talk about the program and people say, hey, I found out it's great. And even this Sunday, as I was playing disc golf in the club, there's this real good guy, Joe, who about halfway through the round just kind of turned to me and said, hey, Ed, what do you do? What do you do for a living? And I told him, and I had my Unfound hat on and I pointed to it and he was like, oh, really? And so we talked about it, but I probably would not have brought it up otherwise. I don't know. That's just the way I am. Sheree, it was very helpful. I watched it after listening to the Unfound podcast. Supposedly killed 60 women between Pennsylvania and Ohio. Robert James Cruz. I don't know if it was 60, Suzanne, but it could be a few. Louis says you need a caddy, a Cadillac. It's not going to be. If I get another car, it's not going to be a Cadillac. I can tell you that. Yeah, you do, Suzanne. You do things different in the South, even though I'm in the South. And Carrie says program is a word we can agree on. I think tournament may be a Southern thing. That's how I pronounce it. Well, Twinkle, then you can start pronouncing it tournament now. All right, let's move on to this. I know some of you do follow the Tyler North page on Facebook, and I saw that his sister, who was the guest for his episode way back in September of 2019, I think it was. The pretrial proceedings have started, and his ex-wife, of course, and her boyfriend are going to be on trial. But the trial is not going to start presumably until November. I think she posted a date as November 15th. We know how these things can change. It may even get pushed off to 2022. We just know how some of these things are usually, until they happen, they're totally up in the air. My understanding and reading what she wrote, and I've not talked to her in a while, just so you know, but this is just public information that she's posted, and I'm telling you if you haven't seen it, is that it seems that some remains were found somewhere in that area, but the DNA tests have not been completed. I think the DNA has been taken, but no results yet. And I think we've learned the hard way with Andrea Bowman, with Crystal Morrison, maybe even Tom Brown, that it sometimes does take some time to get that done. Tom's, it doesn't seem was that long, but Andrea Bowman's, Crystal Morrison certainly took a while. Austin Pevo's certainly took a while as well, like 6 months. So they're still working on that. The trial is allegedly going to start in November. So even though there's pre-trial proceedings going on here in April, we got a while to wait before anybody starts, a judge and getting everybody under oath and everything else. In fact, as we know, it might not even go to trial. We know how these things, how these things can go. So that is the update for Tyler North. I'll probably be talking about that for the update episode that's coming out in a few weeks at the last Friday of this month. Tyler North's, looking back on it, this is one of those disappearances where I don't think we're surprised by any of it. I think that when the episode came out, I think it was obvious very quickly that the ex-wife and the boyfriend had something to do with his disappearance. But as always, as we have a lot of suspects and a lot of these disappearances that never go to trial or nothing. So you're never quite sure what is going to happen. But it does seem that they think they have enough evidence to go to trial to prove that these two did kill Tyler North. Whether it's going to be murder in the first or manslaughter, I'm not sure. But this is one of those ones that I don't think is a surprise, just like maybe Zoe Campos's was not maybe a surprise either. But we got a long way to go before I think a trial happens in that. Now, will they get into why was this done? Why did it happen that night? Why? You can never tell. It very well could be that it's a very complete trial. Let's just say it takes a week. And the why of it just never comes up. Remember, motive is not an element of a crime. It helps maybe to theorize and everything, but, motive sometimes does not come out in a trial at all. All they're trying to do is prove as person A killed person B. And what's the evidence to prove that? Doesn't matter why they did it. It only matters that they did it. So just want to remind you all of that. Let's see what... Louise. Okay, Louise says, no, not a Cadillac. I mean a caddy. That's what we call people who carry golf clubs. Yes, and sometimes we do have caddies in disc golf too, Louise. But for us amateurs, we usually just carry our own bags. It was totally something else, but yes, Louise, yes, I know what a caddy is. So, that's funny. I misunderstood that, but, many of the pro players, Louise, do have caddies. They do have people that carry their bags. But in the amateur ranks, very, 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 very rare. Hello, Robert. Good to see you. Suzanne, that's what I was wondering with when I saw Sam's post, because I never saw where they found a body. I didn't either, Suzanne, but I just know what everybody else knows. Like I said, I've not talked to her in a while. Maybe I should send her a message. And okay. I want to talk about, I've been telling you that I'm going to be making an appearance on a friend of mine's podcast sometime here in April. Well, the interview got recorded on Monday. Was it Monday? Yeah, it was Monday. It was Monday, 3:00 Eastern time, noon where April lives, the host of the program. And that interview is going to be coming out, I think she said April 20th. She has already allowed me to listen to a recording of it. And we go through a lot of stuff. In fact, I sent her like a bunch of stuff that I was prepared to talk about. and we only covered like half of it. And that's fine. I'm not complaining because the show was already over an hour long as it was. But some of the things that we did talk about, that I talked about, were trying to apply logic to seemingly illogical situations. Maybe a good example would be from Brenda Condon's disappearance from this past Friday. How do we logically explain why her boots were in the men's restroom? Can it be done? I don't know if we have enough information to do that. And in fact, she might not have put the boots there herself. And maybe the boots being there have nothing to do with her disappearance. So I talk about trying to apply logic to seemingly illogical situations. I talk about the Peltzman effect. And the Peltzman effect came out in the 1960s when seatbelts started to be added to cars, mandated that cars have seatbelts. And of course, the bean counters, they start going through all the numbers. Well, the seatbelts probably are going to save this many lives and everything else. And of course, then affects car insurance rates, etc. And what they found out was that seatbelts surely made driving safer, although they did not make driving as safe as they thought. And they set out to figure out why that was. How did they miscalculate this? They thought, this is just throwing a number out there, they thought that fatal crashes would come down by 15%, but instead fatal crashes only went down by 12%. Why was there that 3% difference? This is just an example. And what they found out was that they discovered that by telling people that by putting the seatbelt on, they're going to be safer should they be in a crash, what did it do? It caused people to drive faster, thus causing them to get in more wrecks, and most probably fatal wrecks. So seatbelts actually caused people to drive faster. This is a real thing. And it's called the Peltzman effect, Peltzmann, after the man who kind of brought this up and started to study this phenomenon. And this is common over any aspect of any economy, any culture, anything like that. And the way it applies to disappearances is that regarding the surveillance state that we live in the 21st century, and I don't say that in a conspiracy way. The way I mean it is we are tracked everywhere, even though we don't realize it, through our phones, our social media. Our cars have GPS in them. Of course, our cars now have little black boxes if we're ever in a wreck, on and on and on. Video cameras everywhere. And you would think that would greatly, greatly, greatly reduce the disappearance rate. But it hasn't. Why is that? So I talk about that during this discussion with my good longtime friend, April Abear, on her podcast. And then the other big topic that we talked about was the analysis of facts must depend on the era and culture. So we could have a fact in 2021 that we look at it in a certain way. But if regarding a disappearance, but if we have that same fact from a disappearance that occurred in 1965, it could mean something totally different because of the culture, way things were handled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd also talk about that during this discussion I had with my good friend April, and she just found it fascinating. And the reason we were talking about these theories is because her podcast is about critical thinking, analysis, thinking logically, thinking critically. And so this is why those topics were brought to her by me. I said, okay, I understand what your podcast is. Here are some things that we could talk about that I think would go very well in, what you're trying to do with your show. and we had a great time. We also talked a little bit about Star Trek, not a lot. We just talked about, I remember meeting her for the first time, and I talk a little bit about that, but we really didn't talk about any stories from our Star Trek days, any behind the scenes stuff or anything like that. We didn't really get into that. I'm sure all of you would have enjoyed that, but we didn't do that. So there you go. But that'll be coming out April 20th, I think she told me. And of course, when it does, I will make sure all of you know. It was a fantastic discussion. I'd love to talk. I could talk to April anytime. And it probably would be interesting one of these days where we did have a discussion about working at Star Trek. And we did talk about it in this vein. She said it was the best job that she ever had. And I told her it was the best job that I ever had until I started doing this. And I told her how there was a podcast before this one that I was involved in. But it was Star Trek was surely the best job that I had until Unfound got started September 2016. So you can all look forward to that. Like I said, I think she told me it was going to be April 20th. I'm guessing it will be on all the same podcast platforms that Unfound is on: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. And she does a nice job with that show. In fact, I would tell you to check out her show anyway. She has some very interesting guests on there. Her program is also interview based, and it's about thinking and analysis. So some of you might find that interesting. Hello, Pamela. Good to see you. She says, I'm just joining. Hello. Hope everyone is well. I'm good, Pamela. I hope you're doing well. Suzanne says, can't wait to listen to the interview. Thank you. Hello, Jody. So April Hebert, by the way, you spell her last name Hebert. And I unfortunately did not. I want to get this right. So I don't want to say what the title of the podcast is. I don't want to get it wrong. The title of the podcast, if you're going to look it up, is Think It Through, the Clearer Thinking Podcast, hosted by April Hebert, Hebert. And as I told everybody at the end of the interview, April's a hoot. She does a great job, but with the program and everything. And I think she displays her personality on the show quite well, but she's a hoot. April is a hoot. I'm just telling you. Of course, I have to say, most of the people that I worked with at Star Trek were a hoot. Just, people in entertainment. So let's answer I only got one question before tonight's show got started. And that's fine. Did my best to try to get more. Shelly, I don't know if she's in here or not, but I'm going to answer Shelly's question right now. Shelly asked, I haven't been on to watch the live show in a while. This may have been asked before. Do you think human trafficking contributes to any of the adult missing persons? Shelly, I think it's possible. I don't know if we've covered anywhere I thought, oh, absolutely 100% that happened. But I think that you can look at a disappearance like Chelsea Cobo and suspect it. I don't think that would be crazy. I'm not saying I think that, but you certainly could think that. There's certainly nothing to not think that. Another one, maybe Tiffany Daniels. I know that has been brought up. There was, of course, this sighting allegedly of her with two other women some days after she went missing in another part of Florida, like to the east of where she disappeared, allegedly. Once again, I'm not saying I believe that or think that, but I can see why people would think that. So certainly, Shelley, we've covered some disappearances where that is a possibility. I don't think we have covered any disappearances where there are facts that really say, oh, yeah, that happened, and there's no doubt. We certainly have disappearances where we think somebody was murdered. I just talked about Tyler North. fairly obvious. Zoe Campos, fairly obvious. Angela Green, fairly obvious. Marion Hurley, fairly obvious, even though their husbands are still walking around free men. But when we start talking about human trafficking, I don't think that we have any as clear cut as some of those cases that involve murder that I just mentioned. So, but it's possible. I think that the human trafficking of adults in the United States is fairly rare, of American citizens, I should say, in contrast to what we hear about people from other countries being brought here to the United States across the borders. Of course, we've all heard about that. I don't know if anything like that is going on with American citizens, even though that we do know that that some women have been abducted and then held in cellars, like what happened in Cleveland. What was his last name? Castro. The guy's last name Castro. We do have situations like that, but they're so rare that it's hard to really put a percentage on it, Shelley. There's just not enough information to start, putting together a theory about how this happens and how we can look at certain disappearances and think that way. But I'm open to the idea that at least a couple of Unfound's disappearances could have had that happen. But like I said, I'm not saying that necessarily I think that. But everybody's going to interpret the facts in different ways. Once again, if you're watching tonight, please do not forget to like this video, give it the thumbs up. If you're watching it live right now at 10:01 p.m. Eastern Time, or if you are watching in the replay, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. So there's the answer to your question, Shelley. I just think we have yet to run across a disappearance where sex trafficking was absolutely the situation and there's no other choice. We've not done that yet. It very well could be that Chelsea Cobo overdosed the night or the early morning of the day that she disappeared. Or it could be something else, that she was just outright murdered for some reason, or she went off on her own to start a new life or something. I think there are a lot of choices that are still possible in her disappearance. Likewise with Tiffany Daniels. It very well could be that she would certainly be in that kind of demographic, I guess you'd say, that somebody might do that to her. But also, it very could be that she parked her SUV out there at the beach, swam out into the water and drowned, and just were never found, just haven't been found yet. Or maybe her roommate, who everybody's been suspicious of, maybe he did something to her for some reason. Or there was this guy at her school who seemingly might have had the hots for Tiffany, and I think that her parents are fairly suspicious of him as well. So there's a lot of choices in her disappearance besides just the sex trafficking angle. So we just have not yet covered a disappearance where sex trafficking is the only choice. Just want to give you all a little update on what all of you will be hearing for the rest of the month on Unfound. We're going to be doing a regular episode this coming Friday. I'll be talking about that, of course, at the end of this episode. The disappearance we'll be covering. Next Friday, April 16th, that will be, once again, another regular disappearance episode. I think I'm going to be doing that interview next Monday. But then April 23rd will be the annual Q&A episode, where I will accumulate a lot of questions that have been asked over this live show, maybe over the last 6 months, because I keep outlines with those questions. I'm looking off here to the left. I will probably answer a lot of the questions you've heard on this live show again, because once again, a lot of people don't watch the live show. I wish they did, but some of them can't, some of them don't. That's just the way it goes. But they do have a right to hear some of the answers to these questions. I think a lot of The rest of the public who don't watch the show might be interested to hear some of these questions and my answers. And I do this once a year. I know other hosts of other programs maybe do it more often, but I think once a year is plenty, especially since I ask or answer questions every Wednesday night on this show. So once a year is plenty. So that will be April 23rd. And if you'd like any of your questions answered during the Q&A episode, please email them to me at unfoundpodcast.com. I have no limit on the number of questions that I will answer. I'm sure a couple of them will be, for maybe the third or fourth time, I'll be answering, how did I get into this? Why did I get into this? Doing Unfound, that'll probably be something that I answer, but I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of new questions come the Q&A episode on the 23rd. But if you have any questions that are bebopping around in your head, please send them to me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. And I don't mind answering questions outside the realm of missing persons and true crime, as long as it's PG and not too personal. But even last year, I did answer the question, Ed, why are you single? And I think I started that answer off by saying, how much time do you have? So that will be April 23rd. And then on April 30th will be the eighth, can't believe it, 8th update episode. So that's how we're going to finish out the month of April. So that gives you a little forecasting there. See what some of you are saying. Yeah, Marlene says, just hit the thumbs up button. Louise says, do you think many missing people actually go and start new lives? I think they do, but it's just a very, 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 very small percentage, Louise. I'm going to say that maybe my opinion has been changed, that percentage might be a little higher than what I originally thought when I started Unfound. Maybe at the time that I thought it was like, I don't know, 0.005% of all disappearances. Maybe now I'm thinking it's like 0.01%, but it's still a very, very low percentage. Pamela says, pretty late in UK. It is 10 here in Georgia. Here too as well, Pamela, 10:07. Linda says, I need a calendar for all these podcasts. Well, just remember, Linda, they're all on a Friday. And as far as when my interview with April, it'll be on her show. But like I said, April 20th, which I guess would be a Tuesday then. So you want to mark that on your calendar too. Pamela says, I am diehard true crime fan. Okay, Pamela, good to have you. I don't know if you've ever tuned in for the live show ever before. I don't remember your name, but if this is your first time, welcome. The newsletter, it came out last Thursday. I got it done late though. I think I ended up going out at like 10 p.m. last Thursday, which was April 1st. Got it done. It was over 4,000 words. Had an opportunity to go through everything regarding 48 hours. And so if you got the newsletter, then you know the complete story, word by word. You have it in writing now, not just me talking about it last week, but me writing it down in the newsletter. Of course, I talked about some other topics. If you did not get the newsletter, probably you are not on the email list. If you'd like to be on the email list, contact me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. And I know that Suzanne is in here. She had emailed me saying she did not get her newsletter. So if you think you're on the email list and you didn't get it, you've checked your spam folder, you checked here, checked there, and you didn't get it, please contact me and I will make sure it gets sent to you again. So sometimes I use MailChimp, and I know some email servers sometimes do not like emails coming from that service because they're automatically flagged as spam. So that can be a problem, and you'd have to mess around with your email settings to change that. That's nothing that I can do on my end. So the newsletter came out April 1st. You should have gotten it if you're on the list. Of course, the next one will come out May 1st. And May 1st, I guess, would be a Saturday. Well, I'm going to be busy that weekend. Okay. I think somebody did ask me about 48 hours. Well, hold on a second. I think somebody asked me, did 48 hours ever get back to me? Or maybe you deleted that, Sheree, or maybe they deleted it themselves or something. And let me see. I'll be interested in joining. Just to, that was in there somewhere. No, I've not heard back. I've not heard from 48 hours. I don't expect to hear from 48 hours. I'm not saying I want to hear from 48 hours, but the answer is no. I thanked them. I thanked them on Twitter. I sent a message to their account, and I sent a message to the reporter that was featured in that 48 hours episode. I thanked them both, but you certainly know my attitude, and that was expressed in the live show last week and in the newsletter on April 1st. But no, I've not heard from them, and I don't expect to. I'm not expecting to, and I'm not saying I don't need to hear from them. We're just going to continue to do our work. Austin Pevo, being that we talked about Tyler North, have you know that Austin Pevo's mother texted me today, and I don't think I can go through everything that she said, but she did tell me that the trial for at least one of the men who allegedly killed Austin is going to start on August 2nd. So we got Tyler North's that is already kind of started pretrial stuff, but may not start till November. We have Steve Pankey's trial, the murder of Janelle Matthews, that is supposed to start in July. We'll see if that happens. And then right now, a tentative date of August 2nd in Idaho for at least one of the alleged murderers of Austin Pevo. My understanding, this is coming from Susan. I think I can say this without revealing too much, but I think these men's defense is going to be that it was self-defense. I don't know how that figures into, if that coincides with the facts that would be brought out in the trial, but that is what Susan is telling me, that they're going to attempt to say that they needed to kill Austin because he was going to kill them. That's what self-defense is. I don't know if it's going to fly. We'll just have to see. It sounds a little outrageous to me, given that there were three of them and one of him, and they're the ones who disposed of his remains and trying to get away with killing him. But they're going to give it a try. We'll see. But that's supposed to start August 2nd. Just for one of them, I don't know, maybe they're not going to go all on trial at one time. But the guy whose last name is Beasley will be going on trial on August 2nd. We'll try to follow it as well as we can. I'm starting to get the idea as far as Steve Pankey's trial. I don't think any of us are going to have problems following that, because I think it's going to be on court TV. That's the feeling I'm getting right now. So that will be very easy for all of us to follow it. In fact, I may even be watching it on court TV, and I haven't watched court TV since probably the OJ trial. So, but I doubt that Austin Pevo's, his death, the murderer, the people who allegedly murdered him, I don't think that will be on court TV. Let's see. Pam says, it's been a while since I tuned into the live show. Well, Pam, it's good to have you back. I hope that I'm doing a good enough job tonight that you will come back every week. Linda says, Fridays, Wednesday nights, Sundays, etc. need a calendar. Well, Linda, here at Unfound, we are all about content. We believe in providing quality, high quality content, no matter where it comes out, whether it's a podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, Spotify, or the Think Tank for the premium Patreon members on Sunday evenings, which is technically held on YouTube, even though it's an unlisted link, whether it's the newsletter, whether it's the website, whether it's this live show. I know, I take at least an hour. I take at least an hour to put together the outline of everything that I want to talk about for these live shows. So this live show goes usually almost around 2 hours. And then you add in another hour of preparing an outline. It's like 3 hours, 3 hours to put together this entire live show. So we believe in providing quality content and a lot of quality content. And that's why then you get the map analysis, Unfound Now, map analyses of not just the older episodes of Unfound, but the new ones like I'll be doing for this Friday's episode. So maybe you do need a calendar, but you just never know when some of these things are going to come out. But I think that we're providing the highest quality missing persons content out there, and we're doing a lot of it, doing quite a bit of it, and we enjoy it. Louise says, yes, it was me. I deleted it. That's fine, Louise. That's a perfectly fine question about 48 hours. The answer is no, I've not heard from them. Louise says, Sheree, I thought Ed might start to hyperventilate with the mention of it, 48 hours, so I deleted it. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to hyperventilate or anything else. I got up on my soapbox last week. It was quite a tall soapbox to talk about it, and then I jumped on the soapbox again to write about it for the newsletter. Like I said, if they're going to take our material without asking, then we're going to say we are an accredited true crime program, accredited by 48 hours. That's how it works. I hope they can live with it. Pamela says, my schedule doesn't always allow me to get here for the live shows, but I do get the bell on new videos. Great. Thank you, Pamela, for hitting that button. And thank you, Linda. A calendar is for me to remember, not for you. I know. I got you, Linda. I got you. Okay. Haven't talked about, I don't think I've talked about them in a little while, but Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman. I did see that there is a new story out there, something about some sort of tip. So they are going to be searching in an area near where David Livingston lived at the time of Laura and Ashley's disappearance and what we now know to be a murder. Of course, the murders of Ashley's parents. David Livingston is one of the three guys who took part in all of that, and he is one of the deceased, along with another guy. Of course, one of them is still alive, but there's a tip that they are now looking into that David would not allow members of his family to go near this certain area, and it has something to do with a root cellar, and I guess they're looking into that now, but it's just a tip. And I hate to be cynical, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer and whatever other synonyms you want to use, but what kind of tip is this? How are we still getting tips after, over 20 years? Did not anybody know anything? How about just saying what you know? A tip, and it's just coming out over 20 years later. This is another one of those things where I would tell all of you, don't get your hopes up. This sounds to me just like last year when they were going around looking into wells for Laura and Ashley in that area. And I said at the time, once again, this just sounds like they're just out there kind of poking around, hoping to get lucky. And we do know that some disappearances are solved by luck. There's no denying that. Janelle Matthews being found, luck. Crystal Morrison being found, luck. Robbie Hertz remains being found, luck. Absolutely. Fortuitous. But what I think about Laura and Ashley regarding Wells is I can't think of one missing person or murdered person that has ever been found in a well. I'm not saying it's never happened, but being that I can't think of one off the top of my head tells me that it's rare. Very, 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 very rare, even though it gets talked about a lot. So when it comes to, David Livingston, allegedly, he wouldn't let people go to this one area. Are they just finding that out now? It seems very, very, very thin. Of course, if we knew what happened, we could just go solve it right now. But I would, it's news. I'm sure that Laura's parents, Lorene, hoping this is the answers they've been waiting for, but it just sounds like something that if this was a thing, it would have come out years and years and years ago. It's the way it feels right at this point. Louise says, I don't think people realize how much work goes into what you do. The research, the interviewing, and everything else that goes into the show. You all do a great job, Unfound. Thank you, Louise. It is a lot of work. And not just by myself. You're right. Absolutely true. Even like, for example, Eric, he does the Unfound on the Ground once a month, but he has a regular job. He's a college professor, which has a lot of responsibility, but still in his spare time, he has the chance to put together the tutorials, the lessons for these Unfound on the Grounds that occur every month. So that he's taking on work himself. He does a great job of it. I have a lot of respect for him. That's why he's one of the assistants. And I think he is the perfect person to be hosting a program like that. And he does put a lot of work into it, just like all the other assistants in what they do, for sure. Pamela says, yes, I've been a subscriber for at least 2 years. I was fascinated and loved the show right away. Thank you, Pamela. Good to hear it. GS in SD says, I listened to 1.75 speed to hear from the start and catch up in the live show. Well, GS, that's one way to do it. I just want to know 1.75 speed. Do I sound like a chipmunk at that speed yet? Or do we have to get up to like 2 times speed or 3 times speed before I start sounding like a chipmunk? Does 1.75 speed make me sound like a chipmunk? I'd be interested to know that. Kathy, Louise, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Shri says also Luck, Devin Bond, Thomas Brown, Chris Turner. I don't know about Devin Bond, Shri. That was a search. That was an official search in which they found him. Although I'm not saying they found him in the area that they expected, but I think that was at least a search, I thought, going on at that time when he was found. But Thomas Brown, at least to some people, they think it was luck. I don't know if we want to get into that tonight, Cherie. But certainly some people think it was luck. And then with Chris Turner, I'm still not sure, Cherie, that we know that if we know the exact circumstances, that it does seem to me you're right. But it also occurs to me that I thought that was some people out there doing some sort of it's like they were out there for the expressed purpose of learning how to look for remains or something in the desert and actually found Chris. Or maybe something. Maybe I should get together with Dawn, his mother, and get that a little more clarified. But Devin Bonds, I'm not sure if that was luck. Thomas Brown's, at least officially on the record, it was luck. And then Chris Turner, I think that's still, I'll have to check into that. Shri says, was it? Haha, right. Quote unquote luck. Yeah. So Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible, speaking of luck, it very well may be that the only way they get found is through luck. Not to once again be a cynic, but I think after covering over 200 disappearances, you start to get a feel for these things, that you start hearing about tips and their stories that probably, should have come out years ago. And then somebody comes forward. Well, why did they wait? Why did somebody in David Livingston's family finally wait all this time to talk about this? I mean, he's been dead for years. I don't know. Let's move on to this. We, of course, mentioned Steve Pankey's trial that's going to be coming out, but something that all of you may want to look into. And in fact, Cherie, the moderator every week of this live show, is going to be taking it upon herself. But the indictment against Steve Pankey is available on the Weld County website in Colorado. I just found this out within the last few hours. And it can be downloaded if you'd like to read it. There are several files, just warning you ahead of time. So I put that to my volunteers earlier, not long before this show started. And Cherie volunteered, took up the task of downloading all of those files and reading them. And Cherie, all you, whatever you think is important. I, of course, not expect you to recite to the rest of us, to the rest of the Unfound team, every word, but maybe the things that, caught your eye. Surely, by this time, you're more than astute enough to notice those things that, really caught your eye that you think the rest of us should know. So I appreciate Cherie. Speaking of work and things that we do behind the scenes, this is something that Cherie is going to be doing. I thank her deeply for that, because I surely would not have the time to do it. And even if I did, I don't know how well I would do it given the time constraints. So, if whenever Cherie gets done, Cherie can do it at her own pace. But if there are things that come out of it, and Cherie passes them along to me and the rest of the team, we will talk about it, or I will talk about it on a future Unfound Live Show. I don't know if it'll be next week. Once again, Cherie is under no time constraint. She's going to do it at her own pace, and if it takes a month, it takes a month. That's fine. So maybe you can look forward to that in an upcoming live show. The reason this even came up is because in that 48 hours episode, they did talk about some of the things that were in that indictment. And I continue to say that the information that has come out seems to be very partial toward the prosecution, even though it does still seem that they are light on evidence that connects Steve to Janelle and him being on that street that evening. It very well may be when Cherie goes through this information that it might be a lot clearer. Maybe there are things that are in there that just nobody has mentioned yet publicly. That doesn't mean they're a secret. It just means that they're in the documents that are public, but just nobody has talked about them yet. Maybe. But on the other hand, it seems to me that if there was something like that in those documents, it would have been mentioned during the 48 hours episode. However, two things, as I've already talked about, did come out of that. One being, or three things. One being the footprints that somebody tried to rake over. Number two, that Janelle was shot between the eyes. That's how she was presumably killed. And that, what was the third? Kind of just blanked on that. Oh, that the Matthews had never heard of Steve Pankey before until 2019, when after Janelle's remains were found, which I wrote about that in the newsletter. That was a little shocking to me. In fact, I write about all three of those topics in the newsletter. If you'd like, once again, if you'd like to get the newsletter, email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. But I'm guessing that when Cherie goes through it for herself, and being that she has been a part of the Steve Pankey saga on Unfound since day one, the first day that he ever contacted me, and we all talked about whether I should interview him or not. She's been involved since day one, so she knows all of the discussions we've had over the last year and a half regarding all of this. She is the best person to go through those files and try to pick out those items that maybe are unique and haven't been noticed maybe by other people. Shree says, not my first time to read through Wells County's discovery. Read 1,950 pages of the Chris Watts discovery, so I'm familiar with their documents. Oh, boy. Shree? Okay, Shree. Louise, do you think rewards help crack? There's a good question. Thank you. It's interesting because this topic came up for this Friday's episode, Louise, that I'm going to be talking about here in a little bit. That's a very good question. I don't think that I've answered that in a while, so I'll give it a shot. Louise asks, do you think rewards help crack cases? I read that someone has donated $100,000 in the Delphi case towards the reward money, making it $325,000 for the arrest of the perpetrator. I don't believe rewards work, Louise. I don't think there's any scientific proof to show that they do. And I do think there's scientific proof that would show that rewards bring out everybody out of the gutters to try to prove that they know something because they just want to collect the money, and they'll lie and they'll cheat, and psychics and everything else. There is certainly scientific proof of that. I don't think there's scientific proof that rewards solve disappearances. I'm not going to sit here and say it's never happened. Maybe it has happened. I'm guessing it's happened at least once. That does not mean that it works. It just means that it's something that people do. And what came up regarding this Friday's episode is that my guest asked me about rewards, about, how do these people get this money to put up as rewards and everything. And I told her, you know what? I wouldn't worry about that. Rewards don't solve disappearances. It only makes everything more complicated. It only causes investigators to run around with their, like chickens with their heads cut off even more than they already do. So, do I think that rewards help crack cases? It is an unconditional no. They don't help. And I would urge anybody who is thinking about doing it not to do it. And I would tell anybody who has rewards in a case to pull the rewards and give that money back however it was raised to every person that donated to it, if that's the situation that happened. I think it just complicates things. No proof that it works. It just makes everything more complicated. And that's the last thing you need. And my stance, and I think that this is the stance that the rest of my assistants have, is that if people know things about disappearances, they're either going to talk or they're not. Now, it very well may be there could be people out there who know something and don't realize it. Certainly possible. Possible. Absolutely possible. Like in Eric Franks' case, maybe a neighbor saw that car and saw that the garage door had been changed on that guy's garage and everything. They knew something, but they didn't know it was important. Of course, we now look back and know that stuff was very important. But to the neighbors, they saw it, didn't know it. That is certainly possible. And I would say in all disappearances, that is probably the case in one aspect or another. But a reward is not going to change that. A reward is not going to suddenly make somebody realize, I just know something that's important. That's not what rewards are going to do. So like I said, if people know they know something, they're either going to come forward or they aren't. They're either not going to come forward because they're afraid. Maybe they were part of the crime. Maybe they think it's possible they could be accused of being part of the crime. Maybe they're guilty of being an accomplice after the fact, on and on and on. There's a lot of reasons that people wouldn't come forward. In addition, the reason people come forward is they want to do the right thing. But the thing about that is that those types of people usually come forward very early. And if you're waiting for somebody who knows something to come forward with something 10 years later, voluntarily, good luck. Instead, at this point, 10 years in, for example, You're going to have to go out and get that information. You're going to have to research it yourself. Don't think that it's just going to, pop up on your doorstep one day. So people, depending on who they are, their character, their values, they're either going to come forward or they're not. And there's no amount of money that's going to change that either way. That's what I think the scientific data says on rewards. Louise says, without the assistance, the show could not be aired. Well, Louise, here's what I would say about the assistance. Here's what I think. I think that if I had no assistance, that I think the episodes would still be done, but I don't think we would have a lot of the other things that are now a very integral part of Unfound. I don't know if this live show would exist. I don't know if the think tank would exist. I don't know what the website would look like. I don't know what the YouTube, this channel would look like, on and on and on. There probably would be some things. It just wouldn't be as much and might not be as high quality because there's only, once again, so many hours in a day. So I think the episodes would get done because I started this program on my own, and the podcast itself would probably still exist. But all the other things that have become a big part of the Unfound and umbrella, maybe not. Shri says it would exist. It would just be different. Certainly so, and worse. Louise, I've never heard of anybody getting the reward money. I think it brings out scammers and crazy people. There's video explaining what is needed to get the reward money. Yeah, that's the other thing. And that's proof. I mean, how many times do we hear about reward money being offered and somebody getting it? Not often. Why? Because nobody ever comes forward with any helpful information. They come forward with information. It's just usually not helpful. Louise, after 5 years of the Delphi murders with no leads or anything, I can't see anybody coming forward, even if I agree. Shri says Ed really does 99% of the work. It's not 99%. It's not 99%. It is not 99%. It's blah, 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 blah. I don't even know if I wanted to get a percentages, but it's surely not 99%. It's nowhere near that. But I appreciate you saying that, Shuri. Okay. What are we? 10:37. Maybe this live show isn't going to go as long as some of the more recent ones where we went to 2 hours. That's okay. Let's talk about this Friday's disappearance. Going to cover another older person's disappearance. We haven't done a ton of those. I think maybe Jack Hemby, that disappearance from New Mexico. He was an older gentleman, but we haven't done many where the missing person was getting up there above 70 years old. But we're going to be doing one of those this Friday. It's the disappearance of Alwin Albright from Gilmer, Texas, Gilmer, Texas. He disappeared. The best guess is July 6th of 2019. So this is a disappearance that is not even 2 years old. And just to put you in the time frame of July 6th, 2019, that's right around the time that I went to Amarillo, Texas, to get together, surprise, me showing up in Amarillo, Texas to get together everybody regarding Tom Brown's disappearance. And that's also when I met Penny and Tom's brother, and we went to Canadian Road all around to all those different locations. That's around when July 6th was in 2019. So here we have a disappearance that happened right around that time. And the guest is Alwin's niece. By the way, Alwin is 70. He was 74 when he went missing. And it is his niece, Sherry Sullivan, who is the guest. And we did that interview yesterday. And it's about an hour and a half long, something like that. But here are and this episode is called The Walk Off. And being that Sheree is here, David Hardy too, Kathy. Yeah, definitely. David Hardy was also an older gentleman as well. Thank you, Kathy. David Hardy, of course, from Arkansas. Being that both just recently, within the last couple months, Sheree and I had this conversation about, well, Ed, what do you mean when you say a walk-off? What does that mean? And I came to realize that I was saying it, but people were defining it not the way necessarily I define it. And everybody is entitled to define it the way they want. But in this episode, at least as the theme to start it out, I make it clear my definition of when I say, well, the person walked off. And the walked off does not mean that there's just one choice. In fact, there could be three choices. It's just not clear which one it is. What I mean by walk off is that this person was not forced. This person was not murdered. This person was not abducted, etc. It may be that this person walked off to start a new life. A person might have walked off to commit suicide. The person might have walked off with the idea of coming back, but then an accident happened and the person disappeared. Like Crystal Morrison, I guess. I don't think she planned to die the day that she did, disappear and die the day she did, but that's what happened. So I don't think she was trying to commit suicide. And she certainly didn't start a new. We know that she died on the same day that she disappeared. So that's kind of a walk-off, although we didn't know the kind of walk-off that it was until her remains were found. So that's what I mean by somebody going missing voluntarily. And who knows what the ends to that are. So I cleared that up. And the reason I do that in this particular disappearance is because literally we have video of Alwin Albright walking off. He was in his apartment complex, and on that day, July 6th, he got into some kind of argument with his quote-unquote girlfriend, Amanda, a woman who also lived in the complex. Well, it gets a little complicated because it turns out that Amanda had another boyfriend, and his name is Mavis. So we have a guy named Alwin and a guy named Mavis in this disappearance. Well, for some reason, Alwin and it had something to do with Alwin's car that he had just bought. They got into an argument. She claims that he tried to force his way into her apartment. And when he tried to do that, she called 911 and the police showed up 20 minutes later. Well, while the police are there talking to Amanda about it, and she ended up deciding that she didn't want to file any charges. At the same time, the police are in the complex talking to Amanda. There is video of Alwin walking down the main street of this complex, walking around a building on the edge of the property, and he's never seen again. And there are some woods in the area that were searched. They brought dogs in. You know how I feel about dogs, but dogs were brought in. There were 60, 70 people that went through those woods in there looking for Alwin, never seen again. And we start to realize or think about, he's 74 years old. He didn't take his medication with him for high blood pressure. It was in Texas in July. So it's not going to be cold. It's going to be very, very warm. So how far could a 74-year-old go in the woods? Because that's the way he was headed. Now, very well may be that he came back to his apartment and wasn't seen by anybody, or at least the video didn't show him coming back. But I'm not sure there's any proof of that. That will be up to you to decide, because once his family did go to his apartment, he lived by himself. They did find some things that were missing. They found a window that was wide open that somebody could have gotten through. They found that his bed was not up against a wall, like a headboard. Like we all have a headboard up against the wall, or the side of the bed is against the wall. The bed was in the middle, kind of in the room, in a crooked position. They found some clothing that looked to have some blood on it, although they're not sure if it was recent blood or not, because They did not get into his apartment until almost a week after he went missing. In addition, this car that he had bought not long before he went missing, somebody else was driving it, because when they went there one time, it was parked where Alwin would park it. And when they came back the next time, it was on another part of the apartment complex. So somebody had keys to it, even though it was supposed to be Alwin's. So you're going to have to think about all this as I interview his niece, Sherry. And I think you can now see why I called this disappearance the walk-off, because we get to contemplate that term. We get to think about an older gentleman walking on video while the police are there, knowing that the police are over talking to his alleged girlfriend and suspecting what they're talking about. And then he goes and walks off the video. He's not sticking around, I guess, to be questioned. I guess we might put it that way. So that's why it's called the walk-off. Once again, Alwin Albright, Gilmer, Texas, July 6th. And you'll hear why we know that that's that date, of course, from the video and a couple other reasons. July 6th, 2019. And his niece, Sherry Sullivan, is the guest. And the episode is called The Walk-Off. Louise says, I would love you to do a UK missing person. I'd love to too, Louise. I've followed it since day one. It's from 2007 in the UK. He was a 14-year-old boy called Andrew Gosden. I am at least a little bit familiar with that case, Louise. He was he supposed to go to school, and then he was seen on video at a mall or something like that. I think so. He went to London on the 14th. Yeah, September 2007. Yep. I think I do know at least a little bit about that. Marlene Proctor says, wow, another Gilmer, Texas disappearance. Kelly Day Wilson, 17, disappeared from her job at the local video store, January 1992. Big story unsolved. Well, Marlene would love to cover that one too. Not saying it's familiar to me, but we'll see what we can do. Maybe if her family's out there somewhere, it sounds like something that we would certainly feature for the program. Thank you for letting me know about that, Marlene. Louise says he had 100% record of school, really clever. He was deaf in one ear, lived with his parents and sister, bunked off school, I guess took off school, skipped school, I guess we say in the United States, Louise. Went to London and was never seen again. Didn't tell anybody he was going. I am familiar with his disappearance, Louise, and I don't know how we could make it happen, Louise, but if you know that his family's out there doing interviews, maybe we can contact them through Facebook or something and make it happen. Maybe I can talk to them over Zoom or Skype, something like that. We'll give it a shot. And I think that's a fairly well-known disappearance here in the United States, too. In fact, Kathy has heard of it as well. Louise says that disappearance has always puzzled me. It's from 2007, but the police messed up from day one. Complete incompetence. Okay. Would like to give it a shot, Louise. I know that I've talked about it once in a while that I would like to cover the disappearance of Trevor Dealey from Dublin, Ohio. There is a Dublin, Ohio. Dublin, Ireland. That's another one that is, he goes to this Christmas party and walking home, never seen again. And there have been some searches done. There's been rumors that a gang got a hold of him. But would give it our best shot should we get to cover any of those disappearances over there in the United Kingdom, Ireland, mainland Europe, as long as the people speak English, because that's the only language I speak, because I'm, of course, an arrogant American. Would certainly, it doesn't matter where the location is. It just happens that it's easier for us to cover disappearances here in the United States or a few in Canada due to there being no language barrier. We have nothing against the country of Mexico, but it's a little tough when people there only speak Spanish well. They do a lot of them do speak English, but I don't know if it would be of a high enough quality to do a really, really good in-depth interview. Just can't tell. It may depend on the person. But if people speak English, then I'm ready to talk to them, no matter where they are. Well, I think that is about the show. So what did we do tonight? Talked about disc golf this past weekend, this coming weekend, and got a lot of tournaments scheduled these upcoming weeks, almost every weekend, I think, in April. But the thing is, they're all within driving distance, so that's nice. Have some in Clearwater, up there in Floral City, down in Sarasota. These places that I can drive and come back the same day. That's really, really nice. So, and some of them are just 1 day tournaments, which are is nice as well. So I got that happening in April, but still going to be very busy with a lot of Unfound work and other things. It's been beautiful here. Been cleaning out this closet. Going to work on it a little bit more tomorrow. May complete it tomorrow as I'm doing Unfound work and watching some of the Masters. Thinking about getting a quote-unquote new car, which means another car. Getting rid of my Sonata. Thinking about getting something else. Just thinking about it. My diet is going what I would say is fairly well. Ab exercises, staying away from the carbs and sugar. YouTube, almost 12,000 subscribers. My park ranger story, Brenda Condon poll. The trial of Tyler North, not going to happen until November. Upcoming show that I did with my friend April A. Bear, where she interviews me about some missing persons theory on her podcast. Upcoming episodes, I kind of gave you a rundown of what the rest of April is going to look like for Friday episodes. The newsletter, did you get it? Austin Pevo, Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman, Janelle Matthews. Took a question from Shelly. Also took a question from some of you, including Louise. And then finally, as we usually do, we ended up with the episode for this Friday, the disappearance of Alwin Albright. And I should say, it was Sherry who brought up the idea, hey, do you think if, I came up with some reward money, how does that work and everything? And I just told her I wouldn't bother. She asked me, and I just told her I would not even get into that at all. It doesn't work. So once again, this Friday, the disappearance of Alwin Albright from Gilmer, Texas. That's all I got. Twinkle says, good night. Louise, yes, Dad. Kevin Gosden does interviews. He has done many, but nothing has ever come of finding Andrew. Maybe we can make that happen. I'll talk to Emily and see if she can reach him. Linda says, unfortunately, I don't think there will ever be a sort of missing person. You're right, Linda, and it's very sad. Yeah. As Cherie is reminding all of you, keep your head on a swivel. That's my saying, although I ripped it off from somebody else way back in the day. And so everybody have a great week. Spicy, Jasmine, Charlotte, thank you all for making some time on your Wednesday evenings, Wednesday night to watch this live show. I tell you over and over again, I love doing it. I love interacting with all of you. Hopefully I make you laugh, give you some good information. You make me laugh. You give me some good information. So I think it's a lot of good mutual respect here. And thank you so much for listening to Unfound. And you will hear me Friday for the Friday episode. Once again, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get alerts when we upload new videos. And that's it. Good night, everyone.